If you tell them you like it, they will sell you more.
Flying over Pakistan, altitude 30,000 feet. Approaching Soviet airspace.
Listen up, Jack. Your mission is to infiltrate Zeleno-Yazd in the Soviet mountains, ensure the safety of Sokolov, and bring him back to the West.
In 2025, it's estimated that roughly 3.3 billion people globally are enjoying video games, and the average age has risen to around 34, and almost 50% of those gamers are female.
You Gen Z make real gamers look bad. Gen Z! I am 33 years old. My first console was the SNES. I played Sega Genesis, Dreamcast, the original Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy SP, GameCube. I had a PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. I had an Xbox 360. Would you like me to continue?
The UK gaming market alone is set to generate about $17.7 billion just this year in 2025, with projections sitting at around $23 billion by 2029, and that is no mention of Grand Theft Auto 6.
How much do you think GTA 6 will make on opening day?
We sold 210 million copies. Think about that. There's 210 million people waiting for this freaking game to come out. With the way social media is now, when our game came out, social media was new. I think this game's gonna make like 1.5 billion its first day.
The average gamer or the average user spends around just under $1,000 a year. That means roughly 43 million people in the UK as of 2025 have deemed it worthy enough to spend their hard-earned cash on a relaxation and enjoyment gained from playing games. With the success of games like Resident Evil 2 Remake in 2019, we're seeing the gaming industry pivot from creating new high quality ideas with great gaming mechanics to recycling and ruining old classics.
We at PlayStation are happy to announce The Last of Us Complete Edition, which includes The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 for $100.
What? This is completely unnecessary.
What do you mean?
The Last of Us came out in 2013 on the PS3. Then you released a remaster for The Last of Us on the PS4 in 2014. Then you released The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020, and then released the remake of The Last of Us in 2022 for PS5. Then you released the remaster of The Last of Us Part 2 in 2024, and now you've released The Last of Us Complete Edition in 2025. How many times are you going to re-release these games?
Well,
Let me get this straight. The Last of Us gets 3 re-releases and remakes that no one asked for, but Bloodborne doesn't get 1 update in 10 years. How is that fair?
Hey, if you want, you can play the Dustbloods for $600.
No! Get out!
I play what's considered retro games now a lot on stream, because I'm one of those guys who won't just go out and buy the latest console and the latest game to keep up with the trend, because I like to think of myself as someone that thinks a little bit. So I was still playing my PlayStation 3 up until 2019. The only reason I upgraded is because I wanted Death Stranding. Hideo Kojima fan, obviously.
Sam Porter Breaches, the man who delivers. My name is Fragile. You have dooms like me.
I can't spot BTs. Just send some.
Wanna come work for me?
Sam, America's last president wants to see you in person.
That to one side. The games I play on stream is basically me deciding that, hey, I want to share my library of PS3 games with the world, because while all these other streamers and game players are chasing after trends, let's play the latest game, let's tell you the review, let's feed the machine kind of thing, let's feed the beast. I'm more of a like, no, slow down, look at all of the stuff you missed. Right? There's so many games I never even got to play on the PS3 with the time they came out that I'm still enjoying now. Right? Same thing with the PlayStation 4, and you get a lot of like trolls and jokers in the comments like, PS4 and big 2025, PS3 in 2025. Come on, bro. No, you're missing the point, young man. Right? You're missing the point, young woman.
Kids from poor backgrounds need to accept that they're not able to get the newest things. But what they tend to do, right, which is what I used to do as well, is which I'm doing right now, right, is attempt to offer my best foot forward in terms of social engineering. Let's make fixing consoles, learning how to fix an old broken one that's been given up on, bringing it back to life and enjoying that process. Cool, right? You tackle waste then. You tackle the need to keep up with trend. The retro market is built on this, right? The scalpers are literally doing this right now in fashion with Jordans and shit like that. What do you mean that you want to sell me a Jordan 4 for £6,000 or whatever, when in 80 it came out for £30, right? What do you mean, right? This is how culture kind of pulls the trick on you as time progresses, right?
The game industry is going downwards in terms of creativity and innovation. That's why they're reaching back to grab all of these classics or retro games you see a man like me playing, because they're losing ground in terms of creativity and ideas. And what that is going to cause is the problem that I'm seeing more and more on my live streams. I'm playing Infamous. Oh, we need a remake of that. I'm playing Prototype. Oh man, we need a remake of that, right? You know, I'm playing XYZ. Oh, I can't wait for them to remake that. It's like, dude.
Want to see me re-release the same game? You want to see me do it again? You want to see me do it again?
In the past couple of years, it seems like popular media has been getting re-released and remade more than ever, especially video games. There are an insane amount of titles out now that are just upgrades of previously existing works. Not new games, just old games wearing a funny hat. Spider-Man Remastered for the PS5 came out 2 years after the original game. Nobody was playing the original Spider-Man 2 years after release and going, yeah, this looks terrible. I mean, can you even tell the difference between the different versions? Because the only thing that gives it away to me is how the new Peter Parker looks like he makes thirst traps on TikTok. So with remakes and remasters becoming more and more common, I really just have one question. Why? Because they make a lot of money.
Make new games. I don't want to buy remakes of old games. It's stupid. I already played your game once, 10, 12, 15 years ago. I already gave you $70, $50, $60 for that game. I don't want to play a remake. I want to play new games. So I'm not a fan of the remake thing at all. I would much rather get new. Like, I want a new Icewind Dale. I want Icewind Dale 3. I want Knights of the Old Republic 3. I want Mass Effect 5. And Joken has a good point. Like, sometimes when they do remakes, they don't even remake all the games. They remake like a specific one because that's the one that had all the sales. So like Silent Hill 2 got the remake rather than the first Silent Hill. Final Fantasy 7 got a remake, but why not Final Fantasy 4? Why not Final Fantasy 6? Why not Final Fantasy 9?
That's a problem, right? Go play the originals. The originals are great. They were made great. That's why you want a remake of them. The problem that you're not seeing is you need to stop feeding into this market of remake. PlayStation and people like that, or PlayStation, Xbox, so to speak, you know, the big boys, wouldn't keep remaking games if they were doing well at making games. Right? If you don't let developers be creative and spurg out and create the ideas they want to create and fund them, instead of saying, no, we want another Call of Duty, no, we want another Fortnite, we want a Fortnite competitor today, then you're not going to get great games. Now, I know I'm not fleshing out my thought completely, but just beware of that. If you don't speak up with your wallet and your voice, they will sell you more and more of the same stuff, right? So just consider that.
You can't stand me.
That's not true. Why don't you let me fix you some of this Numo cocoa drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
I've tasted other cocos. This is the best.
Now, this isn't no surprise. If you're up on your gameplay, there's always been certain narratives weaved in games, important narratives. Things like Metal Gear Solid, things like Resident Evil.
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. ID tag soldiers carry ID tag weapons, use ID tag gear. Nanomachines inside their bodies enhance and regulate their abilities. Genetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything's monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control. All in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. When the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
I should have seen it coming. It didn't take long after the fall of the Umbrella Corporation for their bioweapons to end up in the hands of terrorists. A new era of bioterrorism descended upon vulnerable countries, shifting the balance of power throughout the region. People in the destabilized areas soon feared another incident like Raccoon City was inevitable. As panic spread, governments of the world turned to the Global Pharmaceutical Consortium, which formed the anti-terrorism unit BSAA. Operatives of the BSAA were sent to infiltrate and neutralize bioterrorist hotspots, restoring safety and stability to various regions around the globe.
They don't just tell a game story. They use stuff like historical fiction to use real-world characters, real-world setting in an alternate game world to explain very serious, heady concepts through the storytelling vehicle of gaming.
1991, the Gulf War. The military secretly injected soldiers with the soldier genes. The Gulf War syndrome that hundreds of thousands of returning soldiers complained about was a side effect of it.
Ha! Everyone knows that the Gulf War syndrome was caused by exposure to depleted uranium used in the anti-tank rounds.
That was just a cover story issued by the Pentagon. First they tried to say it was post-traumatic stress disorder, then chemical or biological weapons. The poison gas detection units and the anti-sarin injections, they were all just a cover-up of the secret genetic experiments.
So then, the so-called Gulf War babies that have been reported by Gulf War veterans are...
Yes, they too are our brothers and sisters.
Yesterday, the White House received an unexpected call. It was a hotline call from Khrushchev to President Johnson.
From the head of the Soviet Union?
That's right.
The Davy Crockett Atomic Battle Group delivery system was completed 2 years ago. But serious problems were found with the launcher's range and precision. Although they were mass-produced, they've never been deployed in battle.
But Sokolov's research facility was completely wiped out. The whole area is polluted.
I can only offer you my deepest condolences over this terrible tragedy.
So, the boss, with Colonel Volgin's help, stole 2 experimental nuclear shells and took them with her as a gift when she defected. Then, shortly thereafter, Sokolov's design lab, a top-secret military research facility, was destroyed by one of these weapons. Am I right so far?
Yes, that's correct.
And the American government denies any involvement in the affair. Is that right as well?
That's correct. We were not involved in any way.
Then what was a U.S. military aircraft doing on our radar screen? It was clearly in violation of our airspace. And yet you say it was not acting under your orders.
That's correct.
You expect me to believe that this was all the work of a single soldier?
I don't know what else to tell you.
Put it simply, in order to avoid a full-scale nuclear conflict, we have to prove that America was not involved in that explosion.
And eliminating the boss ourselves will prove America's innocence?
Right. The higher-ups have decided that you're the only one capable of pulling this off.
Hideo Kojima, for instance, and his take on the military-industrial complex in Metal Gear Solid, and all the different aspects and variations of warfare and how it affects the person, and his predictions of how the future would look with VR soldiers. He really did predict what was coming in 2010s with Call of Duty, right? An endless war. Children, women and men being trained to be VR soldiers via these shooting games and war-orientated stuff. Now, I know that sounds again a little bit tin hat-ish, but that data is harvested and it goes somewhere, and that was the point he was making back then.
Where were you before Foxhound? Delta Force?
I was part of the Army's Force 21 trials.
Force 21? That's about tactical IT deployment, right? Any field experience?
No, not really.
So this is your first?
I've had extensive training, the kind that's indistinguishable from the real thing.
Like what?
Sneaking mission 60, weapons 80, advanced
VR, huh?
But realistic in every way.
A virtual grunt of the digital age, that's just great.
That's far more effective than live exercises.
You don't get injured in VR, do you? Every year a few soldiers die in field exercises.
There's pain sensation in VR and even a sense of reality and urgency. The only difference is it isn't actually happening.
That's the way they want you to think, to remove you from the fear that goes with battle situations. War is a video game. What better way to raise the ultimate soldier?
The way he moved didn't seem human.
You won't see that in VR, I guarantee.
What is he?
One of the members of Dead Cell.
Dead Cell? Him?
A special forces unit created by ex-President George Sears. The name was originally intended to reflect its anti-terrorist functions. The unit would launch unannounced assaults on government complexes for the ultimate terrorism simulation. They were needed to show VR troopers like you how to deal with the real thing.
So you're saying that VR training is some kind of mind control?
Obviously they're espionage games, so it's meant to be a bit of a spoof on the spy world. There was always serious intellectual concepts embedded within games, which some people would view as propaganda too. But his point with things like nuclear disarmament was to encourage the young people of that generation, which would have been the 90s till around 2015, to think about what you could do to make the world a better place. Look at these negative aspects of warfare.
Every day I help create things that should never be used, things that should never have existed in the first place. Every day, without sleep, without a word of praise from others. And my creations do not even benefit mankind. They're merely the tools of politicians.
We had turned to effect, in what proved to be a major way, the course of man's history. We had the pride of thinking we knew what was good for man, and I do think it has left a mark on many of those who were responsibly engaged. This is not the natural business of a scientist.
The success of the Manhattan Project led to the creation of the first atomic bombs, which were then used in the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, marking the first and the only time nuclear weapons were used in warfare. Nuclear testings have happened all over the world. The first was the Trinity test taking place in July 16, 1945. The test was part of the Manhattan Project and was conducted at the Alamogordo bombing range in New Mexico. Interestingly, MGS-5 showcases this with its Alamogordo monument on Mother Base, with the boss's name etched into the plaque. A shining example of one of mankind's destructive creations and the boss's will to unite the world from it. MGS-5 again often shows the cycle of revenge and the endless conflicts and proxies of wars, as the boss has foretold. The boss herself amongst many a nuclear testing ground in Operation Buster Jangle in 1951 at the Nevada testing site, where she was exposed to radiation and rendered infertile amongst many of the soldiers at Bikini and Wentake atolls. Even the Nevada test site itself is where Big Boss would suffer the same fate. The effects were seen in both military personnel, civilians, and indigenous populations who were exposed to fallout. Nuclear test sites like those in Nevada released radioactive fallout over Utah, Arizona, affecting thousands of civilians. Many women in these regions experienced miscarriages and reproductive issues due to long-term exposure. Increased rates of leukemia, thyroid cancer, and birth defects were documented in affected communities. Soldiers and sailors were deliberately exposed to nuclear explosions to study the effects on combat troops. Just like the characters within MGS, many developed cancers, sterility, and genetic mutations, affecting their ability to have children. Metal Gear Solid highlights that war has become routine, acceptable, a norm that humanity is chained to. It's the constant cycle of repetition, truly a war without end.
Nuclear disarmament is the point of Metal Gear Solid. Solid Snake is going around and breaking down these big massive robots, these mech that shoot nukes. He's stopping them from being, kind of thing, right? So he's trying to save the world in this aspect. So there's always been interested commentary and politicization in games, but it was for a good cause, kind of thing, right? Same thing as Resident Evil.
10 years ago, Spencer had me assassinated.
Time to die, Doctor.
I will take over your research.
Wesker, Birkin.
It just doesn't make sense. Do you honestly believe this to be the real identity of that crazy young man? Impossible. But if somehow it is true, then Umbrella will be finished.
If the old conspiracy against Dr. Marcus is revealed, Mr. Spencer's career will be over. Not to mention ours, too. The biological weapon utilizing the T-virus has almost been completed. Our only remaining task is to acquire combat data.
You can't be serious. I refuse to abandon my work. I have finished the research on the T-virus, but I need a little more time to complete the more powerful G-virus.
Biological warfare is the reason why zombies existed. Pharmaceutical companies' greed and trying to benefit from creating a miracle drug and selling you the virus and the cure kind of thing. That was kind of the embedded narrative of a game like Resident Evil. So there have always been politicized ideas in games.
This is VRC Chief Nathaniel Bard, September 29, 11 p.m. I am acutely aware that my time's running out. And I hope and pray, by making this recording and bringing the truth to light, that I can restore some small shred of honor to my name. All of Raccoon City's suffering began with the release of a biological weapon known as the T-virus. My employer, the Umbrella Corporation, engineered this virus, and they ordered my team to develop a vaccine, which we did. Now, I keep samples of this vaccine here in my office. The rest of it is stored underground. But those sons of bitches at the board, they want to destroy it. They don't want the world to know what they've done. So they're trying to erase all evidence that the virus ever existed. Now, I'm not a fool. I know they don't want me to...
I got you all along. And she trusted me anyway.
Got eyes on the G-virus.
Go in.
Dr. Birkin, you'll come along with us quietly.
You think I didn't know you were coming? This is my life's work. I'm not handing over anything.
We have our orders, Dr. Birkin. I'll ask you one more time. Hold your fire!
She is my creation! Oh!
William!
I should have killed him while I had the chance. I don't know why, I just couldn't do it.
He was your husband.
Honestly, we were more married to our work than each other.
But what about Sherry? How could you just leave her all alone and while Raccoon City burned to hell?
I couldn't let my daughter grow up in a world with a G-virus in it.
Now, I say that about games like Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid, not to be alarmist, but just to nudge you towards recognizing, hey, if this happened to traditional media sources, it could happen to games too. And the reason this important thing to touch on, even though I'm making somewhat a case for gaming over TV, is because what we're currently seeing, and which I expect to see a lot more of, is politics of the day being embedded in the games. Whereas the ideas that Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil touch on are more timeless ideologies kind of thing. We're seeing a lot of pop politics being embedded in games, like this is the cool thing to do right now kind of thing. This is the agenda to push right now kind of thing. Whereas nuclear disarmament is something that needs to be spoken about forever, as long as they exist.
Our fear of nuclear arms drove us to bear them ourselves. We thought deterrence would be our defense. These weapons are costing us our future. A future we sold to ease the pain of the present. Humanity, every one of us, has chosen the path of nuclear disarmament. Out of ethics or desire, government policy, military strategy, whatever the reason. It's our path too. And each step forward makes it more solid. The last nuke's been decommissioned. It's over, boss. I thought this day would never come. But while we can rejoice, we must never relax. The last nuke was deactivated. That is a fact. But the knowledge that built it is still out there. How long the world remains nuke-free is up to us. Will this moment persist? Or will human ambition cast us into the flames once more? Our duty is to pass on what we've learned to the next generation. The memories, the experiences, the sins. Only when our children show the wisdom not to forge new spears, only then will we be truly triumphant.
But some of the narratives, which I will not name due to, like, you know, not wanting to get censored more than I already am, are becoming a bit more intrusive, right? And that to the side, look at the marketing aspect too. Advertising is also becoming a large source of revenue in games. Back in the day, you might have saw one or two brands, even to use Metal Gear Solid as an example, in Metal Gear Solid 4, Hideo had things like Apple in there, you know, Calorie Mate and other kinds of things. I think Calorie Mate's a real thing. But today, it's a bit more buy this now kind of stuff, you know? Pay to win kind of stuff. Buy this skin. We got this artist from this music company embedded in this game because we got a deal going on with them kind of thing, right? It can really become insidious quickly, just like how TV shows and movies became as well.
As you know, we spend a lot of time talking about the power of the video game, its unique position as the first interactive mass medium, and its growing global influence as a cultural force. Lots of exciting stuff. But with that exciting stuff comes some unpleasant stuff as well. We love to talk about the incredible possibilities for the future that games offer us. We talk about them as an emerging art form, a new way to explore the human condition, and a leisure activity that'll soon be more common than watching TV, but unfortunately, the very things that make this medium powerful can also make it dangerous. I began to cast about the internet looking for other games to explore this principle. The obvious first choice was, of course, America's Army. For those of you who never played it, it's a recruitment tool made by the US military. It was built with tax dollars and developed in-house by Army personnel. It was a game designed as a military recruiting tool aimed at people still in high school, given away for free so that people who couldn't afford a console or a full-priced first-person shooter could still play. It both teaches things a soldier needs to know and reinforces military ideals, but never once does it really question the moral dilemmas that anyone entering the Army today will have to face. It acknowledges the physical danger of the situation, but carefully avoids the larger questions that come with holding a gun. Hoping to further understand my discomfort, I decided to show America's Army to a particularly jingoistic acquaintance of mine. If it says America, he's pretty much all for it. But he's also an intelligent guy, and I wanted his take. I showed him the game, and he endorsed it wholeheartedly. He said it was a great way to reach out to those kids with no direction in their lives. Okay, interesting. I then showed my friend some games similar to the Special Force series, a set of games made by Hezbollah in which you take on the role of the Arab fighter for Hezbollah fighting the Israeli Defense Force. It plays like any modern war FPS, but with the roles reversed. This time, the guy was horrified. He said this is why we have to be careful what games we let kids play. Well, I had learned all I needed to. Like any propaganda, games aren't effective when you think about them as such. But what about when you don't? But what really makes this dangerous is that we're using all the Skinner box techniques and all the compulsion mechanisms we've talked about before to incentivize the killing of people of a specific origin. Now, if this sort of thing was happening in a true propaganda game, we'd notice it. We'd see it, we'd think, oh, hey, that's propaganda. And then it wouldn't be able to affect us. But they're not, so our defenses aren't up. My point is, there's danger in mechanically incentivizing actions in a game without thinking about what those actions mean. By making the goal of these games to people of other races, you're training people by fooling them into thinking they're choosing. It's their choice to pull the trigger. And because of those compelling moment-to-moment choices, you successfully divert them away from thinking about the larger questions. Why am I killing these people? Are they really my enemies? Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that games can desensitize us to violence or turn us into killers. Those are areas where we have some pretty strong mental barriers built up. But they can certainly have as much effect as any other piece of culture, be it the news media or Hollywood. So just be vigilant and watch for games that state a point of view rather than laying out a space of possibility for you to explore.
So I just say that as just like be mindful it can go in the same direction as TV's gone. But all of the benefits I mentioned too, the experience of games, the cognitive benefits, the communication and connection, those things do kind of outweigh the micro propagandas that we're seeing in it. But it's just something to be aware of in case it ever ends up in that place.